We'd been looking around for a while for a place, and one of my customers had this for sale, and it was just a fluke that it was an old biodynamic farm and the history of it, so it was just by sheer coincidence that we bought it. And the guy who we bought it off had actually bought it before, and I'd heard about it, and we were a bit annoyed that we missed out, and then he decided to sell it, so we grabbed it. Yeah.
So how much did you know about gardening and food forests?
Probably about as much as the average person living in a suburban block, yeah, so not much, no. But wanting to learn, and we sort of decided to throw ourselves in the deep end rather than trying to do it ourselves. If we bought this, then we could learn from what was here, yeah, and learn a lot faster too. The food forest is about 30 years old. It's 3.5 acres. It's a really good size, which was why it was originally chosen. It's got a very slight slope on it, and it's dead north facing, and it's sort of square, so it's just ideal. The maintenance, I probably spend, I'd say about a day every 2 weeks. You could spend a lot more or a lot less, but I find that's enjoyable and doesn't get too much hard work. These are really nice eating, the tamarillos. They're quite a fast growing tree. They only last about 3 years, but they're really prolific. I probably get a bucket full a week off of this tree. Patangas, Brazilian cherries. That's a really nice ripe. When they're ripe, they really fall off easily. Some of the trees are so prolific with fruit. And that's a persimmon. These are pomelos. They're about half grown, as you can see. They're like a grapefruit, but the trouble with grapefruit here is you get the fruit fly, whereas because these have such a thick pith on them, it's about this thick, which is why they get so big. The fruit fly doesn't get in, so they're a lot better for the fruit fly in Queensland. So a lot of the things are planted, whereas you might not get them in other areas, but they grow really well here. So that's what I've found too. Some of the trees which I would have liked, to put in, they don't grow. Yeah, and they just create too many problems. You get the fruit flies, and then japonica berry trees. These ones here, there's no fruit on them at the moment, but all the bark gets covered with the fruit. It's like a little round, dark grape, and they're really good too because the skin's really thin, and you think the fruit fly would get them, but they don't have any problems with fruit fly compared to some of the other things. Tried growing the grapes, but they didn't work, it was too wet, and these are far superior. There's different ones like this one, and this one here's a king japonica, which has a lot bigger, sort of a little bit more furry fruit, whereas the other one you'd swear you're eating black muscatel grape, and twice as juicy. You never see them for sale though, because they've got a shelf life of about a day.
So there's a lot of exotic fruit that isn't sort of well known.
Yeah, and that's some of the best eating fruit. It's fantastic.
Because it can't keep. And
yeah,
so,
you're pretty much eating it fresh off the tree.
And do you do that? Do you find yourself, you get a lot of nourishment?
Yeah. I find for every day I spend, well, if I spend half a day working on the farm, I spend half a day wandering around enjoying it and eating. Yeah, or just wandering around having a beer. There's lots of bamboos around the property, lots of pink cedars, and also lots of these sapotes.
What are these here?
These are white sapotes, which are like a vanilla ice cream fruit. Black walnut tree. They come from North America. They're a really tasty little walnut. They fall off the tree with a coating on them. That's a black walnut. And the one next to it's a beautiful tree with the elephant apple, which has beautiful. These open up when it's a really hot season, and they open up into these huge, big, long white flowers.
What does it taste like? What do you do with it?
It's not really an edible. Well, you can eat it, but I haven't.
Why not?
I've got too many other good things to eat. You can see the soil. See how it's just like chocolate marbles, and it's very absorbent, like a big sponge. You can pretty much just throw a whole bucket of water on there, it'll disappear in about 2 seconds. The trees don't get watered here because it encourages a lot faster root growth and a lot deeper root growth if you don't water, so the trees establish themselves a lot quicker and really get strong quicker. More Japonica trees behind you there. Every season's different, and that was another part of the permaculture planting, was things being planted in the right spots for the light. These big trees here are 2 pecan nuts. You can see they're just starting to go yellow and lose their leaves, and the reason they're planted in front of the house is because of the northern sun here. In the summer you have the leaves on them, so you get nice shade on the house, and then in the winter when they lose their leaves you get the winter sun on the house, so that's why they were put there. And that was the reason why the plantings are in a particular place. There might be a deciduous tree above it and it loses its leaves, and then the tree below it for that time of year is when it gets its fruit. So they thought about it really carefully as to what was planted. As you can see, not all of the farm is cleared. This area here, there's a big macadamia nut tree that's fallen down, and this is also the centre of the property, so I've sort of left this area here as a bit of a sink for lizards, snakes, insects, other things that live on the property that have somewhere to go and still come out and do work around your property. So it's important to have some area which isn't all cleared. Coming off. Everywhere you look there's some sort of fruit and nut.
So you just let them fall on the ground?
Some things, there's so many I can't get to them. Yeah. Originally there would have been a lot of nitrogen fixing legume trees like the coral trees, the caliandras, which are grown for mulch, so eventually you use those up. Some of them keep growing, as you can see around further where they're still growing, we keep mulching them, but a lot of those are actually used as food for the growing trees, so there's a bit of a reversal where in the beginning there was quite a lot. Towards the end all the fruit trees have used those up. You can see this one's got the mulch trees planted underneath it, the caliandras. A lot of them were planted very, very close to the trees or underneath it, so that you can cut them and drop them where they're going to end up, so you don't have to transport them anywhere. And there's also a lot of ground covers like this here. Some of the trees have mulch under, some of them have like what's called a living mulch, which is actually a ground cover. A lot of them are nitrogen fixing. And the other things on the farm like this here is what's called Pinto's peanut. It's a living ground cover for orchards, and it's another nitrogen fixing legume. And this one's really good because you can mow it, so it tolerates quite low mowing, which is really safe with snakes and if you've got lots of people or kids wandering around. A lot of trees are companion planted. Since you don't want to spray to control pests, it's a far better idea to plant a plant next to it which would attract the bird that would eat that particular pest. Which is one thing I've learnt with biodynamics. The first thing you do is you buy a bird watching book so that you can tell what birds are on your property, and also with what birds like those bugs. So if you have a problem you can plant more of those trees. Love this tree.
What do we got here?
This is an award-winning jackfruit tree. This tree just won a lot of awards. A lot of people have told me that they've eaten the fruit off it over the last 20 years.
What does it taste like?
A lot of people say it really stinks, like it smells like rotten meat when you open it up, and if you can get past the smell, the taste is really beautiful. To me it's like a pineapple, mango, passion fruit flavour, and I think it's the smell that puts people off, or you know, when you eat something that's the smell as well. So but for me it doesn't bother me, and you can dry it, you can use all parts of the jackfruit. There's medicinal purposes, there's medicinal uses for a lot of the trees here as well, I've found. But it's a great learning process along the way, and it's really the only way to learn, is to jump in the deep end and actually go through all the problems and learn why things are happening, and pests and diseases. And
have you made any mistakes?
Oh, lots of mistakes, but that's also how you learn. And the experimentation with things, to actually check out if things really do work, like the biodynamics. You can see gains from doing things a particular way, and the organic side of things.
So what mistakes have you made?
I think the main mistake I made was trying to do too much, and I found that you actually get in the way of nature, and it's actually better to do less and just stay out of the way of nature and let it take its course. And you can't keep everything neat and tidy, and some things that need to die, it's part of the life of other plants. So the whole cycle, just learning all of that, is probably the biggest thing that I've learned. Yeah, it's galahs.